Have you ever noticed that some people have an uncanny ability, or at least the bad habit of saying and doing things that make you feel smaller? Not physically smaller, of course, they can't make your body smaller, but they make you feel smaller. They make you feel smaller emotionally, intellectually, psychologically. They say something nasty, sharp, biting. How about rude? How about just plain old fashioned rudeness? Someone's rude to you. Do you know anyone who consistently says rude things? Well, look at it for what it is. They're trying to cut you down. They're trying to cut you down to size so that they can feel up. They want to cut you down so they can feel up, at least temporarily. So they actually get a little thrill out of cutting you down and seeing that hurt look on your face. Because whether you and I know it or not, that hurt look appears. That's why they do it. They feed on that. Can you imagine anything more sick? I can't. I'm going to go out and purposefully hurt someone so that I can feed on their reaction, because I know it's going to hurt them. I know what I very well know what hurts other people, and you do too, because we've had all those things said to us. And the narcissist knows very well what hurts people and what doesn't. They know. They're not ignorant of that fact. In fact, they're quite schooled in that. Quite learned, as it's pronounced. They went to university for that, how to hurt people, and they feed off your pain. Have you ever in your life ever heard anything as sick as that? But that's what we're dealing with. We might as well call a spade a spade. We might as well call it what it is. There's no sense in sugarcoating any of this. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you need sugarcoating, listen to somebody else. So I'm not going to lie to you. I got to sleep with myself at night. I got to look in the mirror when I shave in the morning. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. These people are sick, and they do it because they've been doing it so long. It's a habit, and they do it because people let them get away with it. I've seen that very close in my life. People I've known for my whole life. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. Other people let them get away with it. Instead of, flattening their nose. That would be a good start. Here, hold still. Let me flatten your nose. Maybe that'll teach you to not say nasty things to people. So anyway, you meet the narcissist in your life, whoever that may be. Maybe you're not even sure yet, but people who make you feel bad, people who consistently say sharp, barbed, pointed comments at you. They're doing it so they can hurt you. So you converse with them. They say something nasty. You leave the conversation feeling wounded, feeling less like before you spoke with them. You were fine before, but you bumped into them, or you walked in the door at work and there they were, and they had to cut you down. Well, that's because they're insanely jealous of you too. Anytime someone they're jealous of you, and you're a threat. The way you are, just the way you are. Maybe you're just a strong, healthy person. That's a threat to these people because they're sick and unhealthy. They're weak and unhealthy. So you're a threat to these people if you have any strength at all. been in that position. They'll come at you, and they'll gang up and come at you too. And they'll spread lies behind your back, left and right. But anyway, so you interact with this person. They've got you doubting yourself now because you were fine before you met them, and then you converse with them. Now you're second guessing yourself. You're feeling guilty over something, ashamed of something, inadequate. You're feeling as though you've somehow disappointed them again. How about that? Oh, I'm so disappointed in you. That kind of thing. They're trying to play your emotions. They're feeding off you. So here's the point. If you've ever experienced any of this, today's discussion may help explain why. My name's Jack. Welcome back home to the Happiness Habit. And here we learn how understanding ourselves helps us understand others. And we learn how self-observation leads to greater clarity and a better life. And one of the great mistakes people make when dealing with narcissists is assuming that these painful feelings we experience as a result of interacting with these animals are accidental. They're not accidental. Making you feel small is often part of their MO. It's their, what is it? Modus operandi. In Latin, it's their MO. We're on the police detective stories. They have to make you feel small so that they can feel bigger. Okay, that's why they do it. People who secretly feel insecure frequently need someone else to feel even less secure than they are. If in other words, if you could read a narcissist's mind, here's what it would say. Here's what they're thinking. They're thinking, quote, if I can diminish him or her, if I can diminish you, then I don't have to face my own feelings of inadequacy. See how that works? If I can just keep diminishing someone exterior to me, if I can just keep being a gloomy Gus. You ever known a gloomy Gus? Someone who's gloom and doom, and they just can't wait to drag you into their world and to be complaining about things and miserable about things. Like the word commiserate. Commiserate, it means two people. Co is two. To commiserate means two people are being miserable together. They can't wait. And that's it. You got to know that about the narcissist in your life too. All of them, plural. They can't wait to make you feel just as bad as they are. They can't wait. That's job one. That's top of the list. Misery loves company. Misery loves company. Misery loves to be social. It will pull you in. With no qualms, you gotta realize they have no conscience. You're dealing with somebody without a conscience. Remember Jiminy Cricket? Always let your conscience be your guide. Conscious means you know the difference between right and wrong. This is right because it feels right. This is wrong because it feels wrong. Well, that's called a conscience. Some people, a lot of people, narcissists, especially bad narcissists, malignant narcissists, they're walking around with no conscience. That means they can walk into a bank, hold up the bank, go home, jump in bed and sleep like a baby. Or harm you all day long, left and right, go to bed, sleep like a baby, because they don't have a conscience, okay? So can you imagine anybody on the face of this earth being so psychologically, emotionally sick that they purposefully set out to cause harm to another human being so that they as a result can feel better about themselves? But that's if I can diminish you, I don't have to face my own insecurities. Isn't that terrible? Oh God, it's unbelievable. That's talk about being irresponsible and not taking care of your own life, right? And the thing is, somebody like that, they can have a successful career, the big home, the wife, the 2.2 kids, the two SUVs in the driveway. They can have everything on the exterior, but how is that man or that woman, how are they treating the other people who live in that same home? What what about when they have to become a human being? They can run an adequate business. They can, everything can be fine on the surface. But what kind of a human being are they? What kind of a character do they have? You know what I mean? So even someone in their own home or someone they're supposed to be in some kind of a relationship with, they're the ones that get hurt the most. And it's incredibly sick. So now you know, to make you feel small makes them feel big, at least temporarily. And that's why they do it. I was adopted at age 1, and my adoptive father would say nasty, horrible things to people, including me. And you would think that, your job, you agreed with the wife to adopt a child, or have a natural born child. You would think that there would be a semblance, a modicum of sympathy or empathy. And, here's this child. Let me try to not destroy this child. You would think, but, they try their best, but they don't win. They do not win. Evil does not prevail. Truth prevails. The light prevails. Understanding prevails. Awareness prevails. So there you go. Get on the right side of the fence and you got nothing to worry about. So to make you feel small makes them feel big. And this is why narcissists so often criticize. They'll criticize you, what you're wearing, anything that you're doing. They'll interrupt you. They'll dismiss your comments. They'll ridicule you in private and when other people are around. They minimize your accomplishments. They subtly imply that you're not quite good enough. Okay? They're hurting you, and they're doing so on purpose. That makes them feel better about themselves. It's so sick. I can't imagine why anybody would, once they realize all this, why they'd want to spend another split second with any narcissist on the face of this earth. Because it's not healthy. The goal for them isn't necessarily to convince you that you're worthless. The goal is to keep you from feeling confident. So if they can keep you off balance, that makes them in balance, because that means they're in charge. They can now dominate you because you're weak and off balance and confused and hurting. So then they can go, I'm the important one around here. Because before they weren't. When you walked in the door, they weren't. They're an insecure little 2-year-old, an emotional 2-year-old. But then when you show up, if they can attack you, you'll suffer and they'll feel better about themselves. So then pull the camera back. What are you doing with this person at all? Maybe they're a parent and you come home and they're one of your parents and they start, doing all this. It's abuse. It's terrible. Find another place to live. I can't, I'm talking out loud. I'm speaking to myself. I can't tell you what to do. Please don't think I am. But I'm just saying what I have done is distance myself from these people as rapidly as possible. But does that mean I didn't make tremendous mistakes? No, I gave them major benefits of the doubt for Some of them I let hang around for my entire life, and I should not have. So think about how many people have searched for answers using questions like, why do I always feel drained around this person? Why do I always feel guilty after every conversation? Why do I keep doubting myself? Why do I never feel good enough when I'm around them? Why do I feel emotionally exhausted, confused? Why do I feel like I'm losing my mind when I'm around that person? These are not random experiences. These are patterns, because narcissists, just the way they relate with you, speak with you, engage with, they often make me and you feel small. We feel guilty for anything and everything, feel inferior. I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling of feeling inferior, because that's not me. They make us feel powerless. They make us feel emotionally off balance. They make us feel like you've never been enough. You've just never measured up. They want to control you. That's why they say these nasty things. You feel as though your confidence has quietly disappeared, but notice what's important here. They don't actually have to scream, and they don't have to actually insult you directly. Sometimes it is as subtle as a raised eyebrow, a sarcastic smile, a dismissive comment, a subtle comparison. Well, your brother's, he's always had work and you haven't had work. And well, your sister was always the pretty one. You can imagine, some of these parents, what they say. It's horrible. Well, my other roommates let me fill in the blank, whatever. God, please. Anyway, little by little, your confidence begins to erode. And how do they work to knock you down to size so they can therefore more easily feel superior to you? Well, they make you doubt yourself. They make you feel guilty or ashamed. They'll dredge up something you said or you did in the past. It could be 40 years ago. They don't care. They'll dig up that dead body. They'll do that to shame you. Narcissists operate on the low emotional level of shame, guilt, apathy, anger, resentment. That's their level. That's the world they inhabit. So that's what they're going to communicate to you. We each speak what we are. We each speak our emotional level. And they speak to you, they communicate to you in their low level. And even if it's not words, it's just their body language, their countenance, their energy, their overall energy equates what they are inside of them. My adoptive father was a malignant narcissist. Fact. He had a very low, his physical, just being near him, his countenance was extremely low. I never knew that because that's all I was used to. I was a kid growing up. I lived in the same house. But I realize now, my God, he was an extremely low human being because they're so emotionally undeveloped and often psychologically undeveloped that they live at the level of the low emotions, all of which are very painful. Any emotion less than the emotion of courage is pain. That's where they live. I mentioned earlier, misery loves company. That's where they live. They live in hell. They're on this planet, but they live in psychological, emotional hell. We might as well get that out of the way too. Here's another talk title. They live in hell and you live at a level that's higher than that. So they can't help but strike out, because darkness hates the light. Evil hates good and wants to destroy it. The purpose of evil is to destroy good, the light, understanding. You know, that's what chaos is. All of those things, it's on a low level. Its purpose is to destroy. Okay. So that's where we're at. And because you live at a higher emotional level, especially if you're learning how to self-observe, your emotional level is raising and has risen. And there's no bigger threat on this planet to a narcissist than any individual on this planet who is learning how to self-observe, because that's the way out of the pain, and the narcissist is stuck in the pain. Therefore, if you say anything about, that you're studying, you're learning how to self-observe, they'll hate it. They'll hate you for telling them that, because deep down they know that's what they're supposed to be doing, but they can't do it. A narcissist cannot self-observe. A narcissist has no self-awareness. They have no inner life at all. So there's nothing there for them to study. They're empty. They're completely empty. So they speak to you from their level, because that's the level that they inhabit, if I can say level. And to knock you down a notch or two, to keep you off balance, they will make you feel like you're losing your mind, which is gaslighting, which is from the movie called Gaslighting. And from years ago, like the 30s or the 40s, Google it. It's great. And a man and a woman lived together, and he was tired of his relationship with her. So he started turning down, they used to have gas instead of electricity. He would turn down the gas at home, and his wife would come home and she'd say, "Honey, why is the house so dark?" And he would say, "The house is not dark, dear." Like that. And I think the movie was called Gaslighting. And it's like purposefully lying to someone, denying their reality, which causes people harm, and it makes people go crazy. And I don't know the end of that movie, but that the wife may have started going nuts, and she said, "I got to get out of here," and whatever. But that's called gaslighting. Another thing they'll do to keep you off balance is they'll purposefully say things to make you feel like you're never enough. Jack, you've never measured up. Any chance they get, they will destroy your confidence. They will strive to keep you emotionally off balance. They will do all they can to make you feel powerless and inferior, so that they in turn can feel whole, balanced, and superior. Okay, so again, pull the camera back. Do you see now? Do you understand just how sick these people are? You would have to be extremely sick to purposefully want another human being to feel bad so that you could feel good. It's incredible. Why these people are not all of them locked up, I do not know. They've run out of room at the insane asylum. So they purposefully harm you so that they can feel better about themselves. Okay, this is why, ideally, I personally strive to see the pattern of narcissism as quickly as possible. I mean, I can pretty much clock them across the street. Everyone's got it to a degree. It's just a matter of how much of a degree, right? So that means that I determine that they are indeed a narcissist, and then I hightail it out of there, and I have nothing to do with them at all. If possible, I try to keep all interactions as brief and as emotion-free as possible. Why? Because it's in my best interest to do so. I keep things short and emotion-free. I say yes and I say no, and that's it. No long-winded conversations. I answer questions yes and no, and I get out of there as soon as possible. And when I can, I ignore them. And that's a boy, they hate being ignored. They can't stand being ignored, but I pretend they do not exist. So here's the deeper insight. Healthy people don't need to make other people feel small. Secure people don't need to purposefully diminish others. People who genuinely like themselves generally enjoy seeing other people succeed. But insecurity often seeks relief through comparison. If I can convince myself that you are beneath me, then perhaps I don't have to face what's happening inside myself. Okay, and that's why they do it. This is why I often say that understanding narcissists begins with understanding insecurity. And here's the amazing part. The more clearly you understand what's happening in that other person and inside you, the less personally you take what they're saying and doing. You realize that the sickness belongs with them. The sickness belongs with them. The sickness belongs with them. This is not really about me. It never was. Because no matter who that person is interacting with, they're all getting a dose of the same thing. That's why, maybe you've heard at work, we used to have this one guy, and everyone called him toxic because he was toxic, because he didn't know how to relate to anybody. He was toxic. You left the interaction with him feeling like you had just been poisoned. He was a bad one. He was a malignant narcissist. Okay. So it's not about you. It's just that you are in the proximity of that toxic person, the narcissist. So it was never really about me and you. It was about someone who was desperate. They were trying to regulate their own fragile sense of self. And once you and I realized that, that is incredibly freeing. Because once I stop measuring myself through someone else's distorted perception, my confidence comes back. And I realize, oh, they're sick. That's why they said that sick thing, because they're sick. Sick people say sick things. And then you start trusting yourself again. You start seeing more clearly, and your clarity comes to you. You part company with that person and watch your own clarity come back. And your self-observation is your biggest tool against all narcissists. Is you're so busy observing yourself in action, you don't have any time to pay any attention to those people at all. If today's discussion resonated with you, I've written several books that explore these ideas in much greater depth. They include titles like Understanding Narcissism, Continued Narcissistic Behavior, Protecting Yourself from Narcissists. There's a book called Insecurity Demands the Throne. That's one of my favorites. They do too. Insecure people demand that throne. You can learn more at jackcarterbooks.com. The link is in the description below. Until next time, keep observing, keep learning, keep seeing clearly, and I'll see you next time.